This is the test New York created for itself. The Liberty beat Las Vegas 111-71, produced their largest winning margin of the season, and then looked at the schedule to find Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever waiting next. That doesn't mean New York will beat Indiana. It means the Liberty just assembled a version of themselves that Indiana hasn't faced before. 53.3% shooting, 14 made threes, a 45-24 rebounding advantage, and 27 points from Marine Johannès in less than 22 minutes. One scorer did not create a 40-point margin. An entire system did. Now that system has to survive inside the same arena where Indiana beat New York by 20 points less than a month ago. The score against Las Vegas gets the attention, but the structure behind it creates the story. New York didn't need Breanna Stewart to carry every possession. The Liberty didn't need one ball handler to manufacture every clean shot. They stretched the defense, controlled missed shots, and kept producing answers from different areas of the floor. Johannès supplied the loudest answer. She scored a career-high 27 points, made 7 threes, and shot 9 of 14 from the field. Every part of that line matters. The volume matters because 7 threes can bend an entire defense. The efficiency matters because she didn't need 20 shots to reach 27. The minutes matter because she created that damage before playing half an hour. But New York still scored 84 points that did not belong to Johannès. That's the first problem Indiana must solve. A defense can shape a plan around one dominant scorer. It can load help towards Stewart, crowd Jonquel Jones, chase Johannès over screens, or force the ball toward a weaker option. New York's performance against Las Vegas punished that kind of simple choice. Every defensive answer exposed another part of the floor. Send help inside, and the three-point line opens. Stay attached to the shooters, and New York's size gets room near the basket. Force a miss, and the possession still isn't over if the Liberty control the rebound. That final piece may be more important than the 14 threes. New York finished with 45 rebounds. Las Vegas had 24. A 21 rebound difference changes more than a box score. It lets one team survive a cold possession and prevents the other from escaping after a stop. It creates second chances on one end while protecting transition opportunities on the other. For Indiana, defensive rebounding isn't a small detail before the Clark-Mitchell offense can begin. It's the release switch. Clark is most dangerous when a possession changes direction before the defense can organize. A secured rebound can become an outlet, an early advance, or a decision made while the opponent is still finding assignments. If New York extends possessions with offensive rebounds, Indiana loses those openings. The Fever can't play fast without finishing the defensive possession first. Aaliyah Boston and the Indiana frontcourt affect Clark's freedom before Clark even receives the ball. And that's what makes the complete team angle different from a Johannès highlight story. Her 7 threes were spectacular, but they belonged to a larger chain. Rebounding preserved possessions. Interior threats compressed the defense. Ball movement shifted the point of attack. Johannès then punished the space those actions created. The Liberty also finished the game with an 18-5 run in the final minutes. By then, the result was no longer in serious doubt, but the closing run still revealed something useful. New York didn't build a lead and spend the rest of the afternoon protecting it. The team continued creating separation. This wasn't one isolated sign of improvement. On August 3rd, the Liberty beat Seattle 95-83 behind 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists from Stewart. 2 nights later, New York beat the Storm again, 92-86. Stewart scored 28, while Jones delivered 14 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. Then came the 40-point result against Las Vegas. Those games don't guarantee a trend will continue, but they show different paths to a win. Stewart can lead the scoring. Jones can control the middle and the glass. Johannès can detonate from outside. When those paths begin to overlap, the defense runs out of comfortable choices. A 40-point win can tempt people into easy conclusions. One side has solved everything. The other side has collapsed. The next opponent should be worried. Basketball isn't that obedient. Shooting changes from night to night. Travel matters. Matchups matter. Player availability matters. A team that makes 14 threes on Sunday doesn't receive 14 more on Tuesday because the uniforms are the same. The honest question isn't whether New York's performance guarantees anything. The question is which parts of that performance can travel. Rebounding can travel because it depends on positioning, contact, and collective effort. Defensive communication can travel because it's built into preparation. Shot quality can travel when spacing, and ball movement keep producing the same openings. The actual makes remain volatile. New York can generate a clean look and still miss it. Indiana can make the correct rotation and still watch Johannès score over it. The result will depend on whether the Liberty reproduce the process, not whether they reproduce the exact percentage. Indiana already owns evidence that New York's process can be broken. On July 18th, the Fever beat the Liberty 108-88 in Indianapolis. Kelsey Mitchell scored 33 points on 10 of 14 shooting and made 4 threes. New York didn't leave that building looking like a team ready to control every matchup. Indiana created a 20-point result of its own. That game prevents the August 9th blowout from becoming a prophecy. New York's largest win of the season is heading directly toward the site of one of its clearest defeats. The contrast is sharp. In July, Indiana reached 108 and Mitchell controlled the scoring pressure. In August, New York reached 111 and produced its widest margin. Each team has a recent receipt. Neither receipt settles the rematch. There's an earlier result, too. On June 6th, New York beat Indiana 83-75. Stewart scored 30 points. Clark finished with 10 points, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds. The Liberty closed that game with the stronger fourth quarter after Indiana had led by double digits during the second half. So, the 2026 matchup already has 2 different identities. New York can drag Indiana into a slower game, place pressure on the interior, and make the Fever execute late. Indiana can raise the score, release Mitchell, and beat New York by 20. Tuesday's game introduces a third possibility. Both teams arriving with enough offensive force to make the other abandon its preferred plan. Indiana enters with Clark and Mitchell applying pressure together. Against Chicago on August 8th, Clark produced 26 points, 11 assists, and 5 threes. Mitchell scored 27. Their value isn't limited to adding 2 scoring totals. Each player changes the defensive attention available for the other. Crowd Clark high above the three-point line, and she can move the ball before the second defender recovers. Protect against her passing, and she can attack the available lane or take the deep shot. Shift the best perimeter defender toward Clark, and Mitchell receives different matchups while carrying one of the hottest scoring stretches in league history. New York's complete team performance must survive that decision cycle. The Liberty can guard one action well and still face another before the possession ends. Clark doesn't need to take the shot to determine where it comes from. Mitchell doesn't need to dominate the ball to become the possession's final threat. That places unusual pressure on New York's defensive balance. Johannès may be essential on offense, but Indiana will ask questions about every New York guard at the other end. Can the Liberty keep Clark in front without overhelping? Can they track Mitchell through movement while protecting the paint? Can they defend the first action and remain connected when Clark redirects the possession? The answer can't come from one defender. It requires the same collective precision New York showed against Las Vegas. DeMarco doesn't need an invented villain role in this story. There was no verified post-game threat toward Clark. New York didn't need to declare that Indiana was next. The schedule established the consequence. DeMarco's responsibility is tactical. He has to preserve the spacing and balance that produced 111 points while preparing a defense for a Fever backcourt that creates different pressure from Las Vegas. His first challenge is deciding what New York can afford to concede. Every defense concedes something. The goal is to choose the least damaging option. If New York pushes its coverage toward Clark, Mitchell can punish the weaker side. If the Liberty remain home on Mitchell, Clark receives more room to control the middle. If the interior defense steps toward either guard, Boston becomes available around the lane. If the bigs remain deep, Clark can decide whether the space belongs to her shot or her pass. Indiana faces the same impossible-looking menu. Stewart can punish a small defender inside and pull a larger defender away from the basket. Jones can alter the rebounding battle and create offense from the middle. Johannès can transform a routine rotation into 3 points before the defense resets. The remaining Liberty players don't need career highs if the floor is already stretched beyond Indiana's preferred help positions. That's the complete team test. It isn't New York's stars against Clark. It's New York's ability to make every Indiana decision carry a cost. The 45-24 rebounding advantage may be the first number to watch because it controls how many times those decisions must be made. Indiana can survive difficult shot-making if it ends possessions. It can't give New York repeated chances while also trying to contain 14 three-point spacing. The second number is pace. If Clark turns rebounds and turnovers into early offense, New York will have fewer opportunities to arrange its size and switching. Johannès may spend more possessions retreating than attacking. Jones and Stewart may be forced to defend before they establish their preferred positions. If New York controls the glass and gets its defense set, Indiana faces a different geometry. The passing windows narrow. Mitchell has to work through organized coverage. Boston encounters bodies already placed between her and the rim. The third number is three-point volume. 14 makes against Las Vegas created the spectacle, but Indiana should care first about how many clean attempts New York generates. The Fever can survive a contested make. What they can't accept is a repeated chain of late rotations that leaves Johannès, Stewart, or another shooter alone. New York has the same problem with Clark. The shot that receives the attention may begin more than 25 feet from the basket, but the defensive damage often happens somewhere else. A second defender takes one step too far. A weak side player pinches toward the ball. Clark moves it, and Indiana attacks the opening created by the attention she commanded. That's where Tuesday's game could be decided, not by the first threat, but by the second and third. The 40-point margin also changes New York's psychological position, even if it can't predict the result. The Liberty no longer enter Indianapolis searching for proof that their pieces can create a complete performance. They have recent evidence. Indiana has stronger evidence inside that specific building. The Fever know they can score 108 against New York. Mitchell knows she can reach 33 against that defense. Clark knows the next possession doesn't have to belong to her for her influence to shape it. Each side can walk into the rematch believing the matchup bends in its direction. Only one side can make that belief survive contact with the other team's system. New York's path is clear. Finish possessions, preserve spacing, make Indiana defend the entire floor, prevent Clark from turning every rebound into a race. Indiana's path is just as clear. Break New York's organization before it forms. Force Johannès and the Liberty guards to defend repeated actions. Keep the rebounding margin close enough for Clark and Mitchell to control the game's speed. The temptation will be to reduce the matchup to Clark against Stewart, Clark against Johannès, or one explosive backcourt against another. The evidence points somewhere broader. New York won by 40 because several parts of its game reinforced one another. Indiana beat New York by 20 because its own offensive structure created pressure the Liberty couldn't contain. Tuesday is the collision between those two complete pictures. The winner won't prove that every previous result was false. It will prove which process held up under the newest test. New York at Indiana, August 11th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern.